Hello, everybody, and today I'm gonna talk about all the books that I've read since January till July. So let's just dive right into it. So, first of all, we're going to talk about different ranking categories that I created for this video. First, we have Nothing Beats a Jet to Holiday. It's about books that were almost 10 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. So, these books were totally amazing for me, and I definitely recommend them because they were entertaining and they were beautifully written, or because I just love them. And that's why Nothing Beats a Jet to Holiday. The next one is Interesting. Interesting is going to be about books that were interesting. So, pretty self explanatory. It's about books that were intriguing or that were good but just not great. Next category is depressed. So, everything that made me sad and depressed is going straight to this tier. Another one is going to be party. So, it's about books that were kind of here but also not here. Like they were like a wind. So these books just didn't deliver it for me. They were fun or entertaining, but they lack something crucial. And that was pretty obvious to me. And that's another tier. The last one is Shh, don't talk to me. Pretty self explanatory. It's about books that I don't want to see and I don't want to hear anything about them because they were so bad. Like, I don't even want to think about them. They were so horrible and I don't want to talk about them. That's all. Let's talk about books that I read in January. First one is The Labyrinth House Murders. It's a very interesting murder mystery, and I already can put it in the interesting category because it was entertaining, it was interesting, it was easy to read, it was a good murder mystery, in my opinion. Even if I predicted the ending and even if I guessed the main plot twists, I really enjoyed reading this story and I feel like a lot of people can enjoy this one as well. That's why I'm gonna put it in interesting tier. The Vampire Knitting Club. So it was such a cozy murder mystery with vampires and knitting. It was very atmospheric and perfect for autumn. It was like a warm blanket and it was entertaining. It was easy to read, but there weren't anything spectacular, like it wasn't groundbreaking, but it was also very predictable. So that's why I'm gonna put it in the party tier. It wasn't the party, it was just a party that I went to, a humble get together. So the Vampire Knitting Club is going to the party tier. Blood of Hercules. Bloody hell. Girl, don't even get me started on this one. The Don't Talk to Me tier was created specially for this one because this book was a trash bag. It was so horrendous and I want my time back. I truly want to create a time machine to go back in time just to not pick up this book and not read it because this book left me traumatized. It traumatized me, like literally traumatized. It was a terrible, smutty story about a teenager who fell in love with different men who were like probably 10 times her age because they were like gods in this universe. So she was like 17 and they were like 200, 1000 years old entities. And this girl is 17 or maybe 18 years old. I cannot remember how old she was, but it wasn't okay. Like, this book left me scarred. I don't even want to talk about it. Manage Your Time Like a Lazy Genius. It was such a genius book, dare I say so. And it was easy to read. It was helpful, in my opinion, and I'm going to put it in the interesting category because it was helpful for me. It's full of great tips that are realistic, and it doesn't feel like the author is yelling at you to be better, but rather is giving you kind and mindful advice. And I feel like a lot of people can read this book and find something helpful about time management, so that's why I'm going to put it in this tier. A Holiday by Gaslight. It's not like Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss, it's like Gaslight, like an old Victorian type of a light bulb, like a lamp. It's this type of gaslight, not Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. It's a very beautiful, romantic, and very, very cheesy story, but I enjoyed it. I ate it up. It was written for me, and I feel like it's going to nothing beats a Jet to Holiday because the story was truly written for me, and I read it in the right time, and I was in the right headspace. So I fell in love with these beautiful, cute characters, and I enjoyed reading this book. It was short but memorable and very, very cute. And I'm gonna put it in Nothing Beats a Jet to Holiday because the name of this book is A Holiday by Gaslight. It's perfect for this one. It was basically created for this book. Next one is Dumb Witness by Agatha Christie. I mean, I cannot say a lot about this book. I have a very strange and a little bit toxic relationship with Agatha Christie's books because some of them were so bad, but some of them were kind of entertaining and intriguing. It's like something bad happens and you just cannot look away. That's how I feel towards her books sometimes. And now I'm trying to read all of them. This one just wasn't for me. It wasn't interesting and entertaining. It was kind of boring, and the characters weren't memorable at all. So that's why I think I'm gonna put it in the potty tier. Appointment with Death is also going to this category. I cannot say a lot about this book. I just don't like it. It weren't memorable. It was not it, if I'm being honest. These two weren't great murder mysteries. Next one is gonna be a manga that I fell in love with and I'm obsessed with it. It's Key Sisters. I fell in love with unhinged storyline. I fell in love with artwork in this manga and I fell in love with all the memes, with all the quotes. It's definitely amazing. 10 out of 10. Nothing beats a Jet to Holiday. It's definitely going to this tier. The next one is The Wishing Game. This book is amazing, and every book lover should read this one because it is a story about books, about hopes, about dreams and wishes, and about wonderful readers. It's a love letter to all the readers out there. And I feel like you need to get your tissues ready and read this book. It's an amazing, amazing story, and it's going to Nothing Beats a Jet to Holiday because nothing can beat this story and this book. Nothing can be better than this. Next one is The Rose Bergen. It was bad, like it was really bad. I had a lot of expectations about this book because it was sold out as Jane Austen meets fantasy fairy realm type of fantasy. So I got on the hype train and read it. And this book was very popular. It was everywhere all at once. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to be a respectful lady, but this book was bad. Like it wasn't for me. And I feel like it's going to Don't Talk to Me tier. Of course, it's not so bad as Blood of Hercules, but it ruined my expectations. And this story left me with nothing at all. Like nothing new, nothing changed, same old, same old. That's why it's going here, because this book disappointed me. Miss Newberry's List. This story was beautiful and magical. I loved this book. It was such an amazing plot, such fun and lovable characters, and I enjoyed it. I feel like it's going to Nothing Beats a Jet to Holiday, just because it was such a lovely and fresh story. Reading something nice and inspiring is always great, and I loved the characters. I loved the romance and the atmosphere, and it was such a beautiful and whimsical and hopeful story. I totally fell in love with it. Next one is A is for Alibi, and it is going straight to Don't Talk to Me because this book was bad. I can describe it with one single word: bad. Bad, really, really bad. So this one is like Veronica Mars on crack. That's how I would have described this book. Because the main character is a private detective and she's trying to find a new job. But she's doing too much, way too much, and the plot and the murder mystery was very bad written in here. And I predicted the main suspect right from the beginning. So that's why it is also going straight to Don't Talk to Me tier. Let's talk about March. Why didn't they ask Evans? Maybe they wanted to talk. with Chris Evans, but he was very busy because he was filming another movie. So that's why they couldn't call him and reach out to him. That's why they didn't ask Evans. But in all honesty, this book is going to the potty tier because there is nothing here, like nothing special at all. It was very bland and mediocre murder mystery story, in my opinion. And also, some of the characters here were hella annoying. Sunrise on the Reaping. I would have called it Sunrise, and lots of weeping because I cried and wept a lot while I was reading this sad, sad story. And it is going straight to depresso espresso tier because I was so sad when I was reading it. And I cried a lot. I couldn't stop crying because there were so many bad things happening in this book. And this book was playing on my heartstrings. If you want to cry a river, you can read it. But if you don't want to cry, don't try to read it. Because if you have a heart, you're gonna be sad and depressed after reading this one. The Art of Frugal Hedonism. I feel like this was a very interesting book to read, especially in our modern world that is so hedonistic and so obsessed with new things. It was kind of eye opening to read something about being frugal and about living beyond your means. It was a very intriguing read for me, and I guess it's going to the interesting tier because I was excited to read this type of nonfiction literature. That's why it is going here. Miss McGinty's Dead. This is going to the potty tier. It was another mediocre story, another murder mystery with predictable twist, and I didn't enjoy this one. That's why it is going in this tier. And it wasn't groundbreaking. What you are looking for is in the library. This book was inspiring and hopeful. It was like a warm hug, very soft, very nourishing story, like a cozy blanket or like a very hot, delicious bowl of soup. It was realistic yet comforting. That's why I'm going to put it in the interesting tier because it was inspiring and it was amazing. The Shadow Bride. Okay, I really loved the first book in this series because I mean, we have witches and we have sexy vampires. What more can you ask for? I mean, it's basically the originals and the Vampire Diaries. So, what else can you want in the book? But this one is very disappointing. Like, it was just not it. It is going straight to the potty tier because there was almost no development in this story. The main character arc was left in a very strange place, and in my opinion, she didn't change at all. She was spoiled brat at the beginning, and she stayed spoiled till the end. The plot of this book was also messy, and the pacing was kind of weird to me. That's why it is going to the potty tier. Sorry, but it's only my opinion after all. April towards zero. It's also going in the body tier because there were zero interest in me towards this book. The story and these characters were pretty ordinary and it was full of tropes and outdated stereotypes. It was a boring and mediocre read for me. The Little Shop of Grand Curiosities. It is going to Don't Talk to Me tier. We have such an amazing, beautiful cover. Look at it. It is given Easter. It is given the little shop of cotton candy. But the story was not a fluffy read for me. It was a total letdown. It was a heavy and smutty story. At the beginning, I was thinking that maybe it was like the house moving castle, and I really loved the idea of it because I love Sophie and Howl so much. But this book did them so dirty. It was like if the house moving castle did Magic Mike, or even worse. It was heavily inspired by these two famous characters, but it was so bad. I cannot explain it, but it was very disappointing to me to see such a beautiful story turning into something nasty like this. It just wasn't written for me, and the cover of this book is very misleading. It was book filled with smut and it wasn't so naive and whimsical as I expected it to be, judging only by the cover and the short blurb. That's why it's going right into this tier. Raven and Other Poems. Such a depressing stuff. It's all about death, ravens, and insomnia. And maybe that's why the author wrote such depressing stuff, because he totally needed to sleep. So this book is definitely going to depress a tear. It is also very intertwined with Sunrise on the Reaping, and I know that Suzanne Collins was heavily inspired by Poe. The Grief House. It's going to Don't Talk to Me because it was a very, very bad thriller. It was such a letdown. I don't even want to talk about it. It was such a disappointment. Storm. I read it. I read this book when I was a teenager for the first time. So basically, there is a family of boys and they can control the elements. But they are not controlling them like the Avatar, The Last Airbender. And maybe that's their main problem. So this book is definitely going to the party tier because it was such a throwback in time. But in all honesty, it was a cringe city. It was like a circus. And I don't know how I was able to read this type of stories when I was a teenager and think that they were like so groundbreaking and life changing, so profound and so deep. But no, girl, they were not. They were just weird. Our Infinite Fate is the first book that I read in May. And I'm just gonna say that I expected it to be as great as The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue, but it just wasn't. That's why I'm going to put it in between Depresso and Potty Tears, because there were definitely some potential in this story, but also this book made me really sad and a little bit angry. I expected it to be a very great story about love that conquers all and about fate, but it just didn't deliver, in my opinion. It was a good book, don't get me wrong, but I expected it to be much more deeper and meaningful. Next one is A Haunted House and Other Stories. This collection of short stories was perfectly splendid. It was magnificent, it was melancholic, it was gothic, it was sad. That's why it is going straight to depress a tear, because this book has such a depressive vibe. But it was an amazing read and it made me feel a lot of things. So I can totally recommend this one if you want to read something moody and gloomy. Every time I go on vacation, someone dies. I enjoyed the story. Italy was perfect in here. There were a lot of Taylor Swift references. So if every time when I saw a reference about her, I took a glass of something, I would have ended up really drunk, like totally wasted. Also, there were a lot of references of mainstream media, but nevertheless, it was a very fun murder mystery, and I was hooked right from the beginning. It did what it's supposed to do. That's why I'm going to put it in the interesting tier, because I enjoyed reading it and it was such a fun ride to me. But the next book in the series, No One Was Supposed to Die at This Wedding, was a huge letdown for me. I felt like this book slapped me in the face. I expected it to be as fun and entertaining as the first book in the series, but it was a huge flop, in my opinion. It was disappointing to read this book right after the first one. That's why it is going to Don't Talk to Me tier. I would have put it in the party tier, but now I am petty because of the ending of this book, and that's why I'm going to put it in here. Next one is June. No Place Left to Hide. That's right, no place left to hide from this horrible book. It is going straight to the Don't Talk to Me tier because this book is such a huge letdown and disappointment for me. It was such a horrible thriller. Probably one of the worst ones that I have ever read. The ending was horrendous. I felt like the author bitch slapped me with this ending and with the plot. That's why it is going straight to this tier. Next one is The Wonder Society. It is a nonfiction book, and I stumbled on it by chance. I think I think I'm going to put it in the interesting category because it has a very interesting concept. But I'm kind of torn in here because I want to put it in the interesting tier and also in party tier because it was interesting to learn about this type of society that is so free and so chill. But also, I feel like there were a lot of mysteries left about this society, and I don't know. This book also feels like a party to me, and the members of this society definitely are partying now, somewhere. So I'm kind of torn. Maybe I should put this book in these two categories, but I think I'm going to put it in here. July. Let's talk about July. First of all, we have Blood Over Bright Heaven. And it is going straight to depresso, espresso, sad, melancholic tear. Because I was crying, because I was sad, I was mad, angry, and I was really upset and let down by it. And I felt really bad after reading this book. I can say it is definitely popular for a reason. It is a wake up call for our society that is masked as fiction, but a lot of themes from this story is actually nonfiction. And I feel like even if it's fantasy, it hits too close to home. Like it's talking about immigration and colonial empire. There is a metropolitan state. It is about modern society and developing country, about cities that is using non-ethical sources for energy. It is about reckless consumption, and it is talking about our moral compasses. This book is a mirror for our real world. It is talking about our real life problems, but in a fantasy way. It is basically like the Hunger Games, but a little bit more up to date. It's definitely talking about everything that is going on around in this world right now. So I don't know how to perfectly explain the whole story. I feel like anyone should try to read it for their own sakes. And I don't know what else I can say about this book. It's very heavy, it's very depressing, but also the discussion about these topics are definitely needed. Many people were talking about it as a beautiful romance story, but there is almost zero romance in here. We got bigger fish to fry here. It's set in this weird, strange, magical, but dystopian world, so the main plot is definitely not romance at all. Don't be fooled by it. There is hardly any romance in here, and it is immediately tossed out to the side because of the main plot. It is a story about oppression and immigration and about non ethical sources of energy. It was definitely hard to read, and I have mixed feelings about this one. It had such a poppy war vibes. I also read Nemesis by Agatha Christie, and I'm going to put it in the interesting category because this one was probably one of the best books in the Miss Marple series. Because here she was doing her job. Finally, she was out and about, and finally, she was doing her job right. Finally, she got the job done by herself. She did it, guys. She did it. A Caribbean Mystery is going to the potty tier because I cannot say a lot about this story. It was mediocre, predictable, and outdated. Sleeping Murder is probably going to I don't want to talk about it because I cannot remember anything about this book. The only thing that I remember is that the main villain was poisoning and gaslighting everyone, and it was bad one for the mental health representation. It was a huge letdown for me. I expected it to be such a grandiose and magnificent ending to Miss Marple's series, but it was a letdown. That's why I'm going to put it in this tier. The next one is The Gift of the Magi. It was a very beautiful story about love. And I feel like if you like Oscar Wilde's stories, you will enjoy this one because it's about sacrifices and it's about love. And what are we willing to do for our loved ones? That basically is the main theme. And I'm going to put it in the interesting tier because this story is meaningful and I read it in the uni at first and I feel like it's still a very interesting read. The Belle of Belgrave. It's romantic and very cute, very easy to read type of book. It's basically Beauty and the Beast retelling, but set in a Bridgerton world, with a sprinkle of Jane Austen's vibes. That's the perfect description for this story. So, our main character here, Julia, in this book, is super shy, but she loves to read. She's a huge bookworm. But one day she met a very strange, tall, dark, and handsome man named Jasper. And I immediately thought about Jasper Hale from Twilight series because this Jasper is also very intimidating and scary. He had a scar on his face and he had a bad reputation, but our main character fell in love with him. He was like an onion to our main character. She peeled all of his layers. And at the end of the story, we were left with a very kind, respectful, dreamy, and romantic man who also was obsessed with reading and writing. So basically, these two were match made in heaven. They were perfect together and they were perfect for each other. That's why I think this book is also worth reading. If you love romance novels and if you love reading, I guess you will enjoy this one. And that's it. It's all the books that I've read since January till July. And I hope it was as fun and entertaining for you as it was for me. Because it was really fun to share all of my different thoughts about books and yap about them. Take care of yourselves, and I see you soon. Bye.